I think it's safe to say, as we head into the last of this 4-block bit of videos, that the JoJo franchise isn't about the story, characters, or even the events around them. It's more about the style in which everything is done. With the art, poses, and now the stands to do as a wild story as he wants, Araki is free to craft anything. And he does so, creating a series that is 1 part slice of life, 1 part bizarre adventure, and 1 part murder mystery to craft the 4th installment of the franchise, Diamond Is Unbreakable. Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am your ever-friendly Pokeprof, and welcome back to Fascinating Fiction's theme month, Jojo June, where we're going to be spending the entire month of June talking about the amazing, crazy, over-the-top, and otherwise generally cool series, Jojo's Bizarre Adventure.
It's July.
Well, I'm sorry that real life gets in the way of making videos sometimes. I can't always finish things if that stuff is in the way to prevent me.
It's still July, you dork.
Oh, forget you. Now that we're not bothered by that distraction,
I'm not a distraction.
let's get into part 4 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and the last of the parts that we're actually going to be covering during this special theme month. Remember how I told you in the Battle Tendency and Stardust Crusader episodes that there were aspects of those seasons that we would see come up again later on? Diamond Is Unbreakable is pretty much where we really start seeing all those elements come to work together as one, and because of that we actually get a pretty interesting narrative. Let me jump into things. We start off in Morio, a sleepy little coastal town in Japan that's made to be a bit of your generic, this is the town where a lot of folks know who their neighbors are kind of feel to it. We learn that good old Jotaro Kujo, 10 years after the end of Stardust Crusaders, is coming to town to find someone by the name of Josuke Higashitaka, and good lord did I murder that last name. And if the Joe in the first name didn't hint to you already, Josuke here is the newest JoJo that we're following, and as we eventually learn, a member of the Joestar family. This is where we run into that first unique element from the other series that I was talking about before, the change in character to fit the story. We saw this before with Straizo, who was changed from a good character to an evil one so as to help to move the story of Battle Tendency forward. And we see it again here as we find out the reason that Josuke here is a Joestar. It's because Joseph had an affair with his mother. I am not kidding about this. Now, I know that Sky has mentioned it to me before.
Hi again.
That this is pretty much in line with Joseph's character, especially given how he acts in the original show. And while I do agree that he does have some playboy tendencies, especially as we see him peeping on Lisa, I still feel like there is a major difference between deciding to be lewd and making passes at women, versus breaking your vows with a woman you've married for a couple of decades. Especially with what we see of old man Joseph in Stardust, I feel like this is another instance of a character being changed to fit the story. I know for a fact that Sky disagrees with me,
Because you're wrong.
but that's just simply how I feel. It's after meeting the newest JoJo of the series that we quickly learn that he has a stand thanks to the events of Stardust. Known as Crazy Diamond or Shining Diamond in the American release, this is where we see that second element from a previous series come into full here in Unbreakable, the naming of characters after bands or their music. While this has been a bit of a constant throughout the series, with characters mostly having names that are either slight references or nods to music in the past, part 4 is where it becomes, for lack of a better word, blatant. Every stand needs a name, and since Araki had burned through all of the regular tarot deck and the Egyptian gods within Stardust, he decided from that point onward that stands would be named after music. Everything from Red Hot Chili Peppers to Earth, Wind and Fire and even Pearl Jam are all stand names in this particular series, with most of their names either being modified or changed completely. I think my favorite particular change to avoid copyright issues would probably have to be the stand Bad Company being turned into Worst Company. Regardless, this is where Element 3 comes into effect, as we see that all the stands from this point onward are incredibly specialized in what they are capable of doing. In the case of Crazy Diamond here, its ability is healing. As long as it's not dead or it's his own body, the fourth JoJo here is able to heal things and even heal them in a way that he wants. This makes him an incredibly unique fighter in the franchise, since he's just flat out capable of doing things that the other JoJos simply can't, such as punching through a woman to strike at an enemy while not hurting her at all. But this is where Diamond Is Unbreakable takes a rather interesting turn from the other JoJo series. Instead of it being about the journey to defeat an evil like the other franchises have been, instead it's very much about Josuke having to deal with stand users while trying to live his normal life. In many ways, this particular part of the JoJo series becomes a slice of life show simply because of how things are structured, where half of the stand users that we meet either flat out become good guys, or are more people living their lives and just having some interesting powers. But where do all these stand users come from? Well, a slight retcon. Remember how I said that we were led to believe that back in part 3, the reason that the stands existed was because of Dio? The fact that he had come into this power and is what caused the rest of the Joestar line to develop their own stands? Well, it turns out he actually didn't come into this power naturally, though it is implied that those with exceptionally strong wills can do just that. No, the reason why Dio gains a stand is through a bow and arrow, a relic of an era past that, should it be shot at a person, and they survive, gifts them a stand. If I'm entirely honest, I don't like this plot device. I feel like in many ways that it takes a lot of what made the stands really special, the fact that they were forces of will given life by their users, and demoted them to a superpower that you could inject into people. It removes a lot of that mystic element that these powers had before, and reverted them into something more like a quick power-up, which is exactly what happened when one of the side characters, Koichi, ends up getting his own stand through this very method, getting shot and then being healed. It honestly feels that Araki thought we needed a reason for why people with stands were appearing all over town, other than that old plot device he had already established back in Stardust of stand users are drawn to other stand users. And this is pretty much the first half of the series, as Jotaro, Josuke, and friends are on the lookout for the bow and arrow to try and stop more stand users from being created, while at the same time having a bunch of slice of life adventures. But wait, I might hear you ask, what's with the whole murder mystery bit you're talking about at the end of the Stardust video? Well, that's where the writing of this series decides to take a rather sharp left turn. Roughly at the halfway point of Diamond, we have Koichi and another secondary character, Rohan, end up, well, temporarily going into the afterlife. It's there that they meet Reme, the soul of a young woman who has been killed over 10 years prior, begging them to help find her murderer, who is not only still alive to this day, but also has been steadily killing folks throughout the town over the years. And it's after the pair inform every other good stand user they've met up with at that point, even the characters who don't matter at all in the grand scheme of things like the chef boy here, that we get introduced to Yoshikage Kira, who, in my honest opinion, is perhaps the best and most terrifying villain in the entire dang JoJo franchise. You see, Kira here is a serial killer on top of being a stand user, but he's got a rather unique reason for his murders. You see, the man is obsessed and lustful for women's hands. He kills the women, disposing of their bodies completely barring a single hand, and then goes around acting like that hand is his girlfriend, talking to it, giving it gifts, just about everything he can really do with it. This lasts until the hand itself decays to the point where it starts smelling and can no longer be preserved, in which case he destroys that and moves on to find another woman to kill for her hands. He's a weird, creepy, and vastly disturbing man, but perhaps one of his most interesting aspects is the fact that he wishes for a quiet life despite his murderous tendencies. He doesn't wish to be considered important, successful, or anything like that. He'd rather blend into the background and never be sought after, to the point where as a child he actually always won third place in any contest he took part in, as who would care when placed next to the first place winner. And when you combine this aspect of his character with his stand Killer Queen, that things get even more frightening. The reason for that? Killer Queen's power is that of making anything that Kira touches into a bomb. One that he can detonate at any time and has such destructive power that it completely eradicates entire bodies without leaving so much as a speck of dust behind. And he's more than willing to do that to anyone who wishes to destroy his peaceful life. Which, of course, just so happens to involve the Joestar gang when they find out that good old David Bowie here is responsible for all this. And yes, his appearance and actions is why this series is nicknamed the David Bowie Murder Mystery. Also, I just have to say, even though it has no bearing on anything else in this video, I just love the English voice actor for Kira, as it's good old DC Wesker Douglas as the voice of the murderer. This is how the rest of the series progresses, as Josuke and the gang work to figure out Kira's true identity, while also dealing with all the additional stand users brought about thanks to the bow and arrow. And despite the weirdness of how the series is constructed, as well as the complaints I've got about it, what with Joseph's change of character and the bow and arrow itself, I honestly consider Diamond Is Unbreakable to probably be the second best thing I've seen of the series thus far, right behind Battle Tendency. The fights are overall very interesting and don't have that trap card aspect that we had in Stardust. The characters are likable and goofy in their unique ways, and the stands have hit the refinement point and have gotten to where I feel like each one truly stands out from the rest. And especially once the story introduces Kira into the picture, we get some really unique and interesting storytelling that stands out among the rest of the series. And so, my friends, as we bid goodbye to Jojo June, I'm going to end things off by going over a quick list of things that I know every JoJo fan must answer. They are as follows. Favorite character? Kakyoin. Not only has he got one of the better memes of the series thanks to his cherries, but I just like the idea of this one character working to redeem himself after being brainwashed by Dio. Favorite stand? Killer Queen. Not only is the design of this stand itself absolutely frightening, its power to make bombs is among the deadliest of the series, especially as you get to the end of Diamond Is Unbreakable. Favorite series? I'm pretty sure I've said it before at this point, but Battle Tendency. It's got the best balance of story, character, world building, and overall entertainment factor that just makes me glad that I've actually watched it. Favorite opening theme song? It's a tie between End of the World and Great Days. While all the JoJo music thus far has been incredibly catchy and enjoyable, those two are the ones that I listen to the most. Great Day just has this fantastic beat that always gets me bouncing, especially with the breakdown parts. and End of the World just feels like it is the end of an era of JoJo, with its structure and elegance being something I don't think any of the other themes have been able to top. Favorite fight? This is actually going to be a weird choice, but I would actually have to say the fight between Koichi and Yukako is probably my favorite. Not only is Yukako one of the very few female stand users that actually goes off and gets to fight physically within the series, but her motivations and character aspects are different from what you would normally think. I feel like she could actually have gone and been more within the series had she been given the chance. And there you have it, folks. The end of JoJo June. I hope you have all enjoyed this little theme month, and I hope you all look forward to seeing something else other than anime and manga stuff on Fascinating Fiction, just for a little while.
Dude, you do know that the most popular video on this channel is for the Tenchi one, right? Also, it's July!
Yada yada.